Hello everyone, I all hope you had a very wonderful, great day, and very much of a blessed morning and a wonderful day indeed, guys. Guys, I'm gonna actually tell you something. I'm so superly grateful for you guys and actually viewing and watching my episodes from TikTok and from shorts and from long videos. It completely means a lot to me, as in literally means a lot to me. Please also try to like and subscribe in my YouTube channel as well. It will also mean a lot to me as well if you also do that as well. I would appreciate more subscribers and more followers and more viewers the more. So may God bless you all and may God also stay with you guys and be with you all in everything else you're pursuing and also trying to do as well. And remember, stay strong, stay positive, love yourself and love your families and love God as well with all your heart. Despite that, guys, as you can see, the weather today is very quietly, completely cloudy and very much quietly, completely bleak. It might exactly rain or rather quietly rain with little drops of rain either way, regardless of that. On today's episode, we're to speak about a superhero known as Dan, who is a founder and a leader of the Universal Monster Heroes, who are dedicated, who are solely dedicated to fighting the forces of evil of the sacred world and of the sacred universe as well, by protecting the sacred universe and the sacred world and planet Earth and humanity and the known worlds from the sinister threats of the sacred world and of the sacred universe and of the threats within humanity as well that come from the sacred world as well and from the sacred universe. So let's exactly get right into it. In Dan's earlier life, he was a very proud, optimistic and skeptical, optimistic and skeptical Four-Nation Hunter who was quietly raised by his parents on the Four-Nation Hunter homeworld, on the Four-Nation Hunter homeland and homeworld and planet, which was quietly known as Planet 4, which was exactly the homeworld and planet of the Four-Nation Hunters during at the time, Dan's parents were exactly dedicated and truly dedicated to their mission and to their purpose in fighting monsters of the dark dimension that kept on wreaking large amounts of havoc across the sacred universe's known worlds in order for them to eliminate and eradicate the Four-Nation Hunters for good, so they can also rule the rest of the known universe and the sacred world in a process for them to also conquer humanity in the process of their plans. Despite this, Dan's parents exactly continue to fight up against the monsters of the dark dimension in different dimensions, worlds, planets, universes, different civilizations of the sacred worlds, pocket dimensions, and different galaxies, realms, and different magical realms of the sacred magic universe where they fought the monsters of the dark dimension. During in one of those times, Dan's parents actually died during against the great sacred battle against the monsters of the dark dimension from the other from the other realms from the other magical realms of the magic universe, where they were completely exactly killed by the powerful indestructible monsters of the dark dimension. The Four-Nation Hunters exactly told Dan that he completely exactly lost, that his parents died in a great battle, and that they were completely exactly gave up their lives protecting the sacred universe and the known worlds and the sacred world from the forces of evil. Regardless of that, Dan exactly buried all his parents with the right way in the Four-Nation Hunter right way tradition, and exactly gave them a proper send off. During which in that time the Four-Nation Hunters exactly trained Dan, drilled him, gave him all the sacred supernatural education about the ancient powerful primordial beings and creatures that lived even longer and more ancient, powerful, sinister threats and very powerful forces of evil who are also who also thought have died and who also thought have died but still remain to operate in full secrecy. Regardless of the less, Dan pursued his sacred education to learning more about the sacred galactic war and about the forces of evil that are quietly behind it. He learned about the most powerful, ancient, greatest, powerful beings known as the Omega sacred founders who who were the most powerful and most powerful and very ancient. That they are the ones to discover the most powerful, forbidden, dark, magical techniques and abilities of their power, which helped evolve and create the evolution of the Four Nation Hunters bloodline and of their superpowers and their DNAs, including of the druids, witches, vampires, werewolves, fairies, fateful fairies, aliens, aliens and superhumans, five, 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 five nation hunters, six nation hunters, the Shadow Empire warlords and commanders, and every one of their bloodline was gifted with the granted power of greater evolution. Was gifted with the greater power of greater evolution in the process. Dan exactly came to believe that the sacred Omega, that the Omega sacred founders are still actively alive, and that they formed their own powerful ancient sacred society that is unknown to the rest of the sacred worlds, and that he came to believe that they found a way to preserve their life and their immortality and their powers for all times and for all centuries, so that they can return in a modern century of the sacred world and of humanity, so that they can begin and fulfill their purpose and their rightful mission that they tried to do many centuries ago before they were stopped and prevented by one of their own. Regardless of this, Dan exactly decided to keep all the intimate knowledge and all the forbidden knowledge about these ancient sacred Omega founders, about the ancient sacred Omega founders, in order to make sure that what he has been researching remains only a total secret to himself as well. During the following years, Dan exactly became a powerful public figure hero on planet Earth after he left the sacred universe and the sacred world. He began saving humans. From powerful super criminals and deadly criminals on planet Earth, and he was able to get the attention of the United Heroes, which began to exactly introduce him to the Universal Heroes as well. Which began to exactly introduce him to the Universal Heroes as well at that time. During which, on those years, Dan exactly told Grayson, the prophesied child, the new Universal Man who's the founder leader of the Universal Heroes, exactly that he told Grayson that he wanted to form his own team of superheroes, which also share the same dedication and goal as he did, in order to saving the sacred world and human reality from all sinister threats and all powerful monstrous forces and beings alike. Regardless excuse me, regardless of that exactly, Grayson exactly gave Dan his great blessing and exactly told Dan that the Universal Heroes will always be brothers and sisters, and will always stand beside him, and they'll always be behind his back, and they'll always have his back no matter what. Regardless of this, Dan exactly shook Grayson's hand and exactly told him that he's very much quietly appreciated of his support and his true commitment to the cause as well. After that, Dan exactly left the Universal Hero central headquarters of the asteroid base, which is quietly in the middle of space, and he decided to pursue his goals and his mission to make sure that he protects the sacred world and the rest of sacred reality and humanity from the dangerous threats and powerful ancient forces of evil of the sacred universe and of the sacred world, before they can begin wreaking havoc and creating further destruction and total utter chaos towards humanity, to further the ultimate plans of universal domination in the process as well. During which, in those years, Dan exactly extended invitations to powerful greater members and supernatural creatures of supernatural being, and a warlock and a druid and a faithful and a Four Nation hunter and a witch to join forces by his side, and he was able to exactly recruit 4 or at least 5 members to join by his side, and he exactly told them that they are actually the universal monster, that they are actually the universal monster heroes with a job and a purpose and a mission to saving the sacred universe and the sacred world and humanity from the threats that live on the sacred world and within mankind, and from the sacred universe, and especially from the monsters of the dark dimension. The members of the Universal Monster Heroes exactly reassured Dan that they completely shared his goal and dream and his compassion as well, to protecting the sacred world and the sacred universe and humanity in a process, and they're willing to do whatever it takes in order to securing that dream and that goal as well in that process to make sure it bears fruit, since they all share the same common interest to protecting their home worlds, to protecting their home respective worlds and planets from being destroyed and from being eradicated by the new Lord of Magic's forces and by the original Lord of Magic's followers and by his powerful forces of evil and by his powerful forces of evil and by the greater sinister threats that wreak havoc across the known universe as well, which they completely exactly shared that dream and goal as well. Dan exactly began to tell the members of the Universal Monster Heroes that they have to start beginning their mission and their sole purpose right away, and they all agreed to that regardless of that. On the 15th of February, when the disappearance of the Universal Heroes quietly began due to them fighting a powerful, sinister threat from the other side of the sacred universe, and it created a huge, powerful, chaotic, cosmic blast of an explosion, which resulted in them disappearing and which created another power vacuum within the Shadow Empire itself. This time, the Shadow Empire warlords and commanders strictly form their own factions, and their own empires of their own, while the others remain loyal to the new Lord of Magic and to Lord Clay and to the other ancient secret societies of supervillains as well. During which, on that time, Dan, the leader of the Monster Heroes, exactly told the members of the Monster Heroes that it's time for them to pick up the pace, to do whatever it takes to protecting the sacred world and the rest of sacred reality from all the sinister threats and from all the monsters that are about to wreak havoc. And they all agreed to that as well. On the 29th of February, Dan and the members of the Monster Heroes exactly entered another star system worlds that are within the sacred universe and began their sole mission and their purpose as well, where they actually began their sole mission and purpose as well by recruiting as much aliens and much magical creatures and beings to exactly joining the intergalactic coalition, to helping it restoring peace and balance and prosperity to the sacred world and to the sacred universe, and also to restoring relations between the communities, between the ancient powerful communities of the sacred world, such as the supernaturals, aliens, and superhumans as well, such as the supernaturals, aliens, and superhumans and the Four Nation Hunters relation, in order to restore the fractured rift that was created many centuries ago by the ancient powerful force of evil known as the Lord of Magic, who began to wanted to exterminate them and to annihilate them, which created a further fraction among the ancient sentient beings who used to love one another. Now they actually don't exactly love one another. They actually despise and hate the Four Nation Hunters and even hate themselves, and they even hate all the other aliens and all the other supernaturals and all the other superhumans as well in the process, regardless of them being the most powerful species of all. Despite that, the aliens and the other creatures agree that they'll join forces with the Intergalactic Coalition as long as the Intergalactic Coalition will try to protect them and save them from all the sinister threats. Dan exactly reassured the alien elders and leaders that the Intergalactic Coalition will do just that in order to serve its purpose and its full glorified purpose as well in the aftermath, during the confrontation and during the war as well, which the alien elders and leaders were very much quietly reassured of that as well. On the 20th of March, Dan and the members of the Universal Monster Heroes exactly began to meet on one of their secret bases of operation, which was quietly from an unknown beautiful world and planet, where they were able to create a huge hologram map of the other worlds and planets and civilization, and discovering that the Shadow Empire warlords and commanders are still pursuing with their self-interest goals and mission to conquering 10,000s of worlds and planets and civilization, and that the Red Empire has begun its glorified conquest and everlasting mission. Meaning, in other words, they need to slow down the progress of the Red Empire from conquering 10,000 worlds and planets. And Dan exactly told the members of the Universal Monster Heroes that he's got an idea on how to actually do that himself. On the 24th of April, Dan and the Universal Monster Heroes exactly entered another another world, another planet where this time lived non-supernaturals, where this time lived non-supernaturals, where this time it actually lived non-supernaturals, non-aliens, and non-Phoenician hunters, and non-aliens and non-supernaturals, or non-superhuman beings, were just sentient creatures and beings able to manipulate the power of nature, and growth of nature and its roots and its natural essence in the process by controlling the soul and the roots of the land and everything else. Where Dan and the other members of the Universal Monster Heroes exactly began to meet up and began asking questions to the non creatures who are not exactly supernaturals or superhumans or aliens or Phoenician hunters, and began asking them directly what does the Red Empire scouts and their battle ships exactly do when they busy scouting the entire area and the rest of the other ports of the other world. The inhabitants exactly told Dan and the Universal Monster Heroes that the Red Empire is planning something big and very destructive and very, 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 very chaotic, something that could change the sacred galactic war's future and impact on the sacred universe and on the sacred world, meaning something very bad is about to take place and about to officially happen. Regardless of that exactly, Dan told the members of the Universal Monster Heroes that it's best for them that they actually remain on this world in order to see exactly what was going on. On the 29th of April, Dan and the members of the Universal Monster Heroes exactly were scouting at a camp, or scouting at a sacred camp, or scouting on a sacred camp when they actually saw an entire factory and a facility of the Red Empire's greatest weaponry, greatest weapon, indestructible weapons that were quietly built and refined by metal and clay and all the ancient materials and elemental materials being recreated. Dan exactly discovered that the Red Empire is building indestructible weapons and greater highly advanced technology. Dan exactly began to ask himself, where did the Red Empire get all these ancient elemental materials and all the vast nature resources and everything else in a short span of time, which means, in other words, that someone or something is supplying them with more power and with more technology and with more resources than ever unrealized than ever before, which means it's time for them to actually slow down the progress of those resources before they actually refine and literally be reused for the greater evil. The other members of the Universal Monster Heroes are completely agreed with Dan that that's the best plan ever. They all exactly shushed in, destroyed the entire factory by using their unique powers and their abilities and destroying everything else across it, along with all the metal and all the resources and everything else through it, and they burned the factory to the ground and literally destroyed it in the process as well. They returned to the inhabitants of the planet and exactly told them that the Red Empire will not exactly be bothering or terrorizing the entire sacred villages or the entire sacred villages of this home planet. Unaware to Dan and the Universal Monster Heroes, the Red Empire domestic forces of the soldiers began exactly planning a little slaughtering revenge up against the inhabitants of the planet that lived there, and Dan and the Universal Monster Heroes intervened and gravely exactly put an end to that by fighting up against the greater domestic forces of the Red Empire and by literally attacking them head on, which the battle exactly lasted, but the heroes remained victorious. The inhabitants exactly thanked the great Universal Monster Heroes for saving their villages and exactly told Dan that they remain allies of the Intergalactic Coalition, but they actually told Dan they don't have greater resources or intergalactic or interplanetary galactic technology in order to reach to the Phoenician Hunters' central headquarters or sending a distress signal or warning or anything else in order to assure them that they have anything and don't even have greater resources or anything else to supply the Intergalactic Coalition or the mighty greater Universal Heroes. Dan exactly told the inhabitants of the planet that he will exactly provide them with the necessary tools and everything else they need, and in doing so, he proved them by giving them a powerful blue crystal which has a power and energy to heal the planet and also to restore it back to its former glory, which it exactly did that in a process, the inhabitants exactly gained more resources than ever before, and Dan and the team of the Universal Monster Heroes provided them with endless resources to show them that they are very compassionate and very dedicated to their mission and to their goal and to their obligation as well. Regardless of that, the inhabitants exactly thanked Dan, and the Universal Monster Heroes for their services and for them honoring the idea for providing them with endless resources and everything else. And they continue to exactly building statues of the great, mighty Universal Heroes as well in the process after the Universal Monster Heroes have greatly exactly left the planet as well. On the 29th of May, Dan and the Universal Monster Heroes exactly reconvene on an ancient cave which was quietly hidden from the other worlds and planets within another world and planet, where this time they drew a holographic map in order to see how far the Red Empire's operation and plans and successful goals are exactly closing in. Despite that, Dan and the other members of the Universal Monster Heroes were very quietly impressed to see that the operations of the Red Empire have gratefully slowed down in a process that the entire fleet of their battle cruisers has managed to literally stop the immense. They managed to literally stop the immense. It has like completely managed to stop the growth and the progress of the Red Empire's fleet growing in power and also rising in power. And he was so very proud of that he's managed to slow down the process of the Red Empire literally growing in stronger and rising in power in full scale. Rather not than that, the other members of the Universal Monster Heroes exactly told Dan that the Shadow Empire warlords and commanders are still literally planning their tactic plans and their evil machinations, which means in other words, they must be successfully stopped. Dan exactly completely agreed with the other members of the Universal Monster Heroes, and that is exactly what they'll do and to proceed on with that as well. On the 20th of June, the members of the Universal Monster Heroes with Dan exactly sought out another entire Shadow Empire battle cruiser fleet that was quietly traveling across the other planets, and they managed to completely exactly destroy it by fighting the Shadow Empire warlords and commanders by literally subduing them. They subdued them all and their forces and all the other forces, while the other Shadow Empire warlords and commanders were able to escape by holding a precious, powerful technology known as a dark orange red box, which has been granted the most powerful dark ability of opening portals and also the ability to allowing its subject to teleport themselves far away, which the others managed to teleport and escape, while the others were mandatory in custody. Before they were actually sentenced to the Astral Prison, Dan exactly asked the Shadow Empire warlords and commanders who are they serving now and who are they working for. This time, the Shadow Empire warlord told Dan that he's serving himself and he's actually working for himself now. This entire faction this entire faction of his battle cruiser fleet that he managed to attack is actually under his command, and that he managed to ruin his greatest plan and his greatest bigger plan of all time. Regardless of the less, Dan exactly and the other members of the Universal Monster Heroes exactly took the Shadow Empire warlord straightly to the Astral Prison to remain in custody for his crimes against the sacred world and against the sacred universe. The Astral Prison is actually a powerful, formidable prison designed to house super criminals and super villains and evil warlocks, druids, witches, faithful and powerful evil superheroes and rogue ancient beings of creatures, which is also designed to do that it's designed to house one of the most dangerous criminals and ancient beings and creatures of evil across the known universe and across the rest of the sacred universe as well, in the process to hold them for their crimes, as well as the Dark Ark and the sacred prison as well. On the 15th of July, Dan and the members of the Universal Monster Heroes exactly met up with the Universal Heroes on the central headquarters of the Astral base and exactly told Universal Men they've done a very much of a good job and they managed to still able to do much of a very greater job. Universal Men exactly told Dan that the resources of the Intergalactic Coalition are quietly stretched too thin. The war and the battle has quietly managed to stretchify the resources, and there's nothing they can possibly actually do in order to help other worlds and other planets, which is beyond their greatest ability and power and capacity. And the Universal Heroes are solely dedicated to their mission and to their job, which they were able to do as well. And the World Heroes and the Universal and the Universal Water Heroes are also doing all they can to protect in their respective home worlds and the other worlds, and the Universal Magic and the Universal Magic Hero Fairies are trying to defend the sacred magic universe from being attacked by dark sinister magical threats that want to conquer it and rule it. So as you can see, all the resources of their allies have been literally stretched thin, but they're doing all they can to keep the war from spiraling out of control. Dan exactly told Universal Man that they are also doing all they can in order to make sure that the Intergalactic Coalition's resources are fully gathering, and they fully have more resources and more power than ever before. Regardless of the less, the Universal Monster Heroes have the back of the Universal Heroes, and they'll always exactly have it, regardless of that. They exactly shook hands and remarked of their partnership and remarked of their brotherhood, as Grayson exactly told Dan that they'll always be brothers no matter what, no matter what exactly happens. The Universal Heroes and the Universal Monster Heroes are brothers and sisters, that they'll always stick together. And Dan was very grateful for that as well. On the 19th of August, Dan was able to go back to his sacred archive books on his central headquarters, of his basis of operation in the Universal Monster Heroes basis of operation, able to read more about the ancient, powerful secret society groups of supervillains that have lived longer and been able to function longer and operate in full shadows of the sacred world, and the others able to exactly operate themselves in the full shadows of the sacred world. And you still continue to able to read more about the sacred Omega founders who pose a greater, more magnificent threat to modern society and to the sacred world and to the rest of the sacred world and to the rest of the sacred universe. And he came to believe that these creatures and beings are still actively alive, and that there could be 10,000s of them and many more. And he decided that it's best that he and the Universal Monster Heroes try to research more about them and finding out more about them soon as possible. On the 16th of September, Dan and the members of the Universal Monster Heroes exactly returned to the Shadow Empire facility that was quietly raided many years ago. Many years ago by the ancient groups of supervillains known as the Founders and the Order of the Five many years ago. They discovered powerful cryogenetic freeze stasis pods have been literally been taken, and that the entire facility is empty, and that all the assets and everything else have been literally been taken away. The Shadow Empire warlord who was quietly in charge of the facility wasn't quietly present on that month and on that year when the entire facility was quietly raided by the most powerful, formidable bad guys and very strong and greater supervillains. This Shadow Empire warlord and commander exactly told the Universal Monster Heroes that what happened in this facility was quietly beyond anything else he's ever seen, that the forces of evil took all the most powerful equipment, but they couldn't exactly get the most powerful asset of all, which remained a top secret to him and to the other Shadow Empire warlord. And he decided to show the Universal Monster Heroes what he and the others have discovered that will shock the lives of all the other forces of evil. Despite that, the Shadow Empire warlord and commander exactly took Dan and the members of the Universal Monster Heroes beneath the facility of the Shadow Empire warlords, and exactly showed them the sacred Omega founders who still remained dormantly asleep in cryogenetic freeze stasis pod for all eternity, who still remain in hibernation sleep for all eternity and from all time, preserving their beauty and their immortality and extending their lifespan and their powers as well in the progress. The members of the Universal Monster Heroes were shocked to discover that their ancient predecessors and their darkest and most powerful livable ancestors are still actively alive, which they used to refer them as godlike monk, as godlike monks and beings, who used to exactly rule the sacred world and the sacred universe in ancient times and enduring the greatest millennia, enduring in many millennia ago as well, during many millennia ago, before the sacred world was ever known and ever founded by them and created by them during the ancient times as well. Regardless of this, Dan and the other members of the Universal Monster Heroes were very shocked to discover that there are hundreds of them and 10,000s of them and 50 million or 10, 100, or 10,000 of them, many of them trapped and asleep in cryogenic freeze hibernation stasis pod, remaining dormantly asleep for them to awaken at the right proper time. Then exactly asked the Shadow Empire warlord and commander, why are the ancient, powerful, godlike monks and beings being preserved like this? The Shadow Empire warlord told Dan that the ancient beings exactly put themselves in these hibernation cryogenic freeze pod in order to preserve themselves and their life in order for them to carry out their soul mission and their purpose, which they exactly intend to do when they awaken, to begin their true goal and purpose and philosophy and their soul destiny, and which when they actually awaken up or literally rise up from these pods, they will soon carry out their mission because they'll be more powerful and more extremely dangerous than anything else they've ever faced. They managed to form the ancient secret society, which is unknown to all the other forces of evil, or to the other Four-Nation hunters, or to the previous Four-Nation hunters, or to the original Lord of Magic as well, who was able to rule the Shadow Empire, but it was unknown to him as well. Despite that, whether you knew about the existence or whether you didn't know about the existence, they were able to form the ancient groups and a powerful secret society, shadowy organization, which has remained quietly operational and very quietly operational in the shadows of the sacred world due to the conflicts and wars and battles of the sacred world and the rest of sacred existence. But they don't know whether it still exists, but they do have a group and a powerful group of dedicated followers and faithful followers who still follow every mission and every goal that they managed to set out. Dan exactly told the Shadow Empire warlord that this discovery about these ancient godlike beings must remain a top secret to him and only to him and to his colleagues. That only them, they can only know about that. The Shadow Empire warlord told Dan they are not the only ones who know about the existence. There could be more of these pods of them across the sacred world and across the sacred universe that are also in the same state, meaning that there could be more of them out there. Well, Dan exactly realizes that the secret might exactly come out and it might exactly be revealed one way or another, and there's nothing else they can do about it. Dan exactly told the Shadow Empire warlord to join forces with the Intergalactic Coalition and provide them the knowledge and the intimacy of your technician and of your expertise with scientific development, and as well as your talents with scientific developments and everything else, and also with the experiments. But he must keep this experiment only to himself and only to himself. The Intergalactic Coalition is still exactly healing from it being compromised by the new World of Magic, and they cannot afford to allow these ancient godlike beings to be discovered by any powerful, dangerous threat or sinister force of evil that will use them to wreak havoc across the sacred world and the rest of humanity. That is what the Shadow Empire completely agreed on as well. As you assured the members of the Universal Monster Heroes, that is exactly what he'll do. They all agreed to that as well. On the 21 of October, the Universal Monster Heroes exactly convened on one of their bases, of operation, which was quietly on another beautiful world and planet, where they discussed exactly what they saw and what they actually really saw with their own eyes, and exactly told themselves they have to inform the universal heroes, and exactly told them and tell them what's coming, because it could change the fate of the entire sacred universe and the known universe's fate for good or for ill, or for greater good or for the greater evil. And they all agreed to it as well. On the 29th of November, the Universal Monster Heroes exactly arrived in the central headquarters of the asteroid base of the Universal Heroes and exactly told them what they actually discovered. And Universal Man was quietly shocked out of his life as he told the members of the Universal Monster Heroes that they are the ones that need to know about the secret and that no one else can never know about it. Until then, they can only trust themselves and only themselves. With the Intergalactic Coalition still literally healing from it being compromised and being corrupted by the new Lord of Magic's influence and by his resources, they can only trust themselves. As Universal Man exactly told Dan that he must exactly take precautions to make sure that whatever it is that they're doing must be done at the right way, and nothing else can exactly disturb that, by fighting up against the ancient forces of evil and preventing their ancient goals and their mission from successfully bearing fruit at all cost. Dan exactly asked the new Universal Man what is he willing to do with this secret. Universal Man exactly told Dan he's gonna seek knowledge and powerful cosmic knowledge from elsewhere. The only beings that can only advise him and provide him with this incremental knowledge are the fates, which they are the ones who saw and made the prophecy and recreated it. Maybe they actually may have been bestowed another prophecy about this or something else that might be actually coming. Either way, he'll have to go to the fates. Despite that, they need to keep the secret to themselves and only to the members of the Universal Heroes, which can be trusted. The others completely agreed with Universal Man, as Dan exactly told Universal Man that they'll always fight side by side, no matter what, as they all completely agreed on that. On the 28th of December, Dan exactly continued to researching more about the ancient shadowy groups of supervillains that used to operate within the shadows of the sacred world during ancient times and during the following centuries, and yet he found nothing throughout the ancient libraries or anything else rather than that. And he discovered that the only way for him to gather this intimate knowledge will be for him to go to a forbidden place that is beyond his resources and beyond his intelligence. On the 28th of January, Dan exactly journeyed into the sacred islands that was quietly being protected by the sacred stages, and the sacred stages allowed him to have great access into the libraries, allowing him to research more about the ancient wars and ancient battles, and discovered that there was a powerful ancient group of super villains that highly still operated. And the good question is, who is this group and what is the group exactly? On the 20th of February, Dan was able to meet up with the members of the Universal Monster Heroes, as the members of the Universal Monster Heroes told Dan that the Shadow Empire is beginning its total goal and mission, and that it's time for them to step up and stop it, as they all completely agreed on that as well. On the 15th of March, the members of the Universal Monster Heroes fought up against the Shadow Empire warlords and commanders, able to take down their fleets and the entire faction of their fleets by decimating them and destroying them in the process before they can invade the other worlds and planets, and slowing down their progress from conquering other worlds and planets and civilization, and fighting up against the ruthless commander, the most powerful commander of all other commanders throughout the Shadow Empire, and by taking him down once and for all. And the commander was completely taken down, but after that he disappeared during the battle. The Universal Monster Heroes exactly reassured the inhabitants of the other worlds and planets that they have their back and they'll always do what they can to protecting their worlds and planets and civilizations from the wrath of the Shadow Empire warlords and commanders, that they'll continue doing that as well, no matter what. The inhabitants exactly thanked the Universal Monster Heroes, but the atmosphere of the planet and of its inhabitants were completely not in a very much of a good sign, or not in a very much of a in a good way. It was completely very destructive and very hostile, as the other beings and creatures did not exactly like the Universal Monster Heroes as well. On the 20th of April, the Universal Monster Heroes exactly able to meet up with the Four Nation Hunter Intergalactic Coalition representative, and exactly told them what they know so far and everything else, and exactly told them that something big is coming, and the rest of the other worlds and civilization of the supernaturals, aliens, and superhumans are becoming very hostile towards them, and the others becoming quite friendly. Meaning, in other words, a huge, powerful war is about to loom between good and evil. Evil and evil is about to be waged on. And either the Four Nation Hunters are ready or not exactly ready, they must be prepared. Regardless of that, the representative of the Intergalactic Coalition of the Four Nation Hunters exactly told the Universal Monster Heroes that they actually are ready and are prepared if they're willing to share the intelligence and the information that has actually been provided by them, as Dan agreed to do that out of love and out of compassion as well. He shared the intelligence and the information on the Shadow Empire warlords and commanders in conquering more worlds and more planets and more civilization in the actual aftermath and dealing with the sinister threats and forces of evil he has managed to actually come across and come up against as well. On the 20th of May, the members of the Universal Monster Heroes exactly gathered into one of the central headquarters of their bases of operation, which was from another different location. And this time, Dan exactly told the members of the Universal Monster Heroes they know exactly what's coming, and they know very well what's about to come is going to be very big and very, very, very dark and very truly evil, which could change the fate of the sacred world and the fate of humanity. And everything else now lies on them, and it depends on them, and the fate of mankind lies on their soldiers. And they all agreed that they have to take the war to the greatest force of evil, meaning the Star Prince, the new Lord of Magic, the founders, and the Order of the Five which they recently exactly fought and come up against and managed to defeat many years ago. And they all agreed that they have to take them out and literally strip them of power and of the influence towards the other worlds and civilization. They all agreed to doing that, and that they all exactly vowed to protecting each other and sticking together no matter what. As Dan exactly valued the members of these teammates and see them as brothers and sisters, they all agree that that is what they'll actually do. Despite this, guys, Dan is very compassionate, very loving, very determined, powerful Four-Nation Hunter, very wise and very optimistic and very loving and very determined, devoted to his mission and to his goal in protecting mankind and the rest of the sacred universe and of the sacred world from all sinister threats, and from all powerful forces of evil. His worst and powerful, worst greater enemy are the members of the Order of the Five and of the founders and of the new Lord of Magic and of Lord Clay and his ancient group known as the Order of Death and the Galactic and the Order of the Four and the Shadow Empire warlords and commanders, and as well the Shadow Empire itself as well, and as well as the Star Prince, as well the Star Prince and the Universal Prince and the members of the Order of the 12. Those are the greatest enemies of the universal monster heroes and the monsters of the dark dimension, which Dan has solely vowed in order to destroy them and to decimate them before they can wreak havoc and destroying other worlds and planet. Despite this, he's very smarter tactician and a super tactician, a tactician and a super strategist, very calm and very patient and very wise and very wise and very devoted to his mission in saving the sacred world and the sacred universe from all sinister threats of forces of evil, and very obligated to his mission and to his goal. He's a founder and a leader of the Universal Monster Heroes. He has greater supernatural powers and superhuman abilities such as super speed, super strength, super hearing, super sensing, heat vision, freeze breath, and also as well as hand-to-hand combat, swordsmanship, able to use guns, barrel and ST grenades, and able with the greater power of reappearing and also disappearing at will. He has a power of manipulating the power of shadows at will, which he can also possess the powers of shadows, only little bit of the aspect powers of shadows, and a greater power of super limping as well. He's a very great loving member and a leader of the Universal Monster Heroes, and he values the members of his teammates, and he views the Universal Heroes as brothers and sisters, which he's willing to trust solely badly as well. And he views the Four-Nation Hunters as brothers and sisters, and as well as the representative of the intergalactic coalition of the Four-Nation Hunters as greater elders, as uncles, as greater elders as well, which he gratefully respects and trusts with his life and everything else. Each member of the Universal Monster Heroes houses its own secrets, and Dan and the other members of the Universal Monster Heroes have came to learn they can all trust in each other and trust the Universal Heroes as well, which they view as brothers and sisters, and they came to all love one another and truly care about one another. Despite this, guys, Dan literally believes in his work and his mission to saving the sacred world and the rest of sacred existence from all sinister threats, and from all cosmic forces of evil, and he's willing to fight them and he's willing to stop them as well in the process. He's very dedicated to his work and to his mission, and he loves his parents so badly, who solely passed away during of the great wars against the monsters of the dark dimension, and is willing to do this to honor them and to show them that he literally honors them, and literally honors them and loves them, and he's solely committed to the Four-Nation Hunters mission and sole goal and purpose in fighting the monsters of the dark dimension. And he's very good at maintaining the Universal Heroes monster heroes bases of operation, as well as a central headquarters of the bases of operation, which is a very much of a powerful cave, which is a very much of a powerful mountain cave within the other worlds and planets, as well as the other bases of operation are scattered across the sacred universe, which they use in order to operate in full secrecy, for them to actually meet up in secrecy and discuss their plans with the Universal Founders, the Universal Magic Heroes, for them to actually talk about their plans and their greater goals to saving the rest of sacred reality. Despite this, Dan exactly views the Universal Magic Heroes as greater allies, and as well the Universal Founders, and as well the World Heroes and the United Heroes and the members of the Intergalactic Coalition as greater allies and as brothers and sisters, which he solely trusts and he's very skeptical, very optimistic, and very, very determined of his mission, solely obligated to his obligation to protecting mankind and the rest of sacred existence from all the sinister threat. His greatest and most powerful nemesis and greatest arch enemy is Golden Knight, Ghostmaster, Golden Knight, Ghostmaster, Metal Face, Steel Face, Red Knight, Queen Ivy, the new Lord of Magic, and Lord Clay, which is willing to take them down, and the members of the Order of the Five and the members of the Founders as well, which is willing to take them down and stop them before their plans can successfully bear fruit. And he's willing to do whatever it takes to protecting and saving humanity. He's very compassionate, very loving, very devoted, very well spoken, and very respectful Formation Hunter, truly with a kind heart, but very intelligent and very skeptical and very smart and very, very, very devoted with his mission, and solely trustworthy with all the secrets of the sacred world, dedicated to protecting the sacred world, humanity, and mankind from all the forces of evil of the sacred universe and of the sacred world in the process. He's a founder and leader of the Universal Monster Heroes, and he leads them with greatness, authority, with great authority, and with great goodness. And they solely believe in Dan's mission and his obligation to the cause in defending and protecting humanity and the sacred world and the sacred universe and the known universe from all the sinister forces that they're willing to create chaos and destruction upon it as well in the process. And Dan is very optimistic, very loving, compassionate, devoted, trustworthy, and very unique and very special Formation Hunter, gifted with the power of manipulating light magic and light crystals at will, and he can able to do that due to his bloodline of his mother's bloodline being known as a bloodline of being known as a being known as a bloodline of half fairy and half Formation Hunter, which has been granted with the ability of manipulating magical crystals and abilities as well in the process, and his father being a full Formation Hunter, granted with the ability of super limping and super hearing as well, which Dan has inherited those abilities and those powers as well from his father's bloodline and from his mother's bloodline as well in the process, all combining them and all successfully merging them all in one. Dan is completely trustworthy, very patient and very curious and very optimistic, trustworthy and very determined and very obligated, loving, kind, caring for mankind, and very devoted in protecting and defending humanity and the sacred world and the sacred universe from all sinister threats and from all sinister forces of evil of the sacred world and of the sacred universe as well in the process. Well, that's it for today, guys. I'll actually see you tomorrow as well on Thursday. Have a wonderful, blessed, great day indeed. Take care of yourself and enjoy yourself, and may God bless you and protect you as well. Like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would very much appreciate it as well. Make also that, guys, I appreciate your support in viewing and watching my episodes in TikTok and from shorts and from long videos. Keep doing that as well, and enjoy yourself and have a wonderful, blessed weekend. Love you all. Take care and goodbye. See you all tomorrow. Bye. Bye. Bye.